Hello everyone. This is Unit 3, Lesson 2, Rational Equations. So if you remember yesterday, we were solving one-step equations. And this is very similar, but rational means we're bringing in decimals and fractions. So we're not going to just have whole numbers and integers this time. So the process is the same. The steps to solve an equation with decimals and fractions doesn't change. Step 1, we still have to decide, well, where is my variable? Is it on the left side of the equation or the right? That's by what side of the equal sign it's on. Number 2, determine the operation that is occurring to the variable. So what is happening to the variable and the number? Are they being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided? Step 3, use inverse operations. So inverse really means to undo. So remember, the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of multiplication is division. And so on, and we can put those backwards as well. The opposite of subtraction is addition. Opposite of division is multiplication. And so what we do to one side, we have to do the other. So we use those inverse operations on both sides of the equal sign to solve. That's how we get the variable isolated or by itself. And then lastly, step 4, we want to check our work. So we do this especially on rational equations. So we practiced it yesterday so you knew how we substitute our answer in for the variable. But we do this especially when we want to double check, well, are these numbers correct? Did we do our work right? Does the equation make sense? So for number 1, for set 1, we're only looking at equations with decimals. So solve each equation, check all solutions. So we look at number 1 and we see the equal sign is here. And we want to say, well, what's on the left side of the equal sign? Well, I see the variable a. And what's happening to a is it's being subtracted by 17.9, a decimal. So if we want to solve this equation, we want to get a by itself. We want to know, what does a equal? Well, if it's being subtracted by 17.9, we do the inverse. We add 17.9. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we add 17.9 to both sides of the equation. So on the left side of the equation, we see negative 17.9 plus 17.9 cancels. So now all we have on the left side is a. Then we bring down that equal sign. And a equals, well, 32.4 plus 17.9, which comes out to be 50.3. A equals 50.3. So to check our work again, we'd want to double check, make sure that's okay. So instead of a, because a is the number 50.3, we can just replace a in our equation. Well, our original equation was a, which is 50.3, minus 17.9. And it says it equals 32.4. Well, what is 50.3 minus 17.9? Type it in our calculators. And we do, in fact, get 32.4, which equals 32.4. That is a true statement. 32.4 is the same thing as the number 32.4. True, so our answer is correct. So we can check our work. We do that. We really should, like it says, check on all solutions, but especially on rational equations. Usually with whole numbers, it's a little easier to tell, so once you start getting the hang of it, you'll kind of understand, oh, is that number supposed to be that big, or should it be 0, or should it be negative? But with decimals and fractions, we especially want to be checking our work. So, on to number 2. So number 2 says 14.7 on the left side of the equation equals 15.3 plus n. Again, we want to solve, we want to get n by itself. So right now we're in plus 15.3, so we're adding. So to get n by itself, we got to move that 15.3. Well, in order to move it, we have to do the opposite. Subtract. So we subtract that 15.3 to both sides. Well, 15.3 minus 15.3 is 0. So on the right side of the equation, we have something equals n. And what that something is what we've got to figure out. So 14.7 minus 15.3 is negative 0.6. So negative 0.6 equals n. It's our final answer. Number 3, negative 4.5, and it's next to p, so that means times. So we already see p is being multiplied, so to get p by itself, we do the opposite. Divide by negative 4.5. And what I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. So negative 4.5 divided by negative 4.5 is 1. So we have 1 p on the left. And negative 60.3 divided by negative 4.5 is going to be a positive, because a negative divided by negative is a positive, 13.4. So again, we'd want to check that work. We could plug that 13.3 in. Well, what is negative 4.5 times 13.4? A negative times a positive is a negative. And it does, when we type in our calculator, come out to be 60.3. So 60.3 equals 60.3? True. The work shows that it works. Okay, number 4. Negative 8.5 plus k. So right now we see we have addition. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. And so we want to get k by itself, so we got to subtract that number. Well, subtracting negative 8.5, opposite of a negative is really a positive. It really means we're adding. So we're adding 8.5 to both sides. Which makes sense because a negative 8.5 plus 8.5 is 0. And that's what we wanted. We wanted k alone. So k equals negative 27.8 plus 8.5. So the negative 27 is really small and 8's bigger. And so because it's really, really small, we're still going to have a negative answer. And it's going to be negative 19.3. So k equals negative 19.3. Number 5, 16 equals y, and we have a fraction bar, so that means divide it by 0.3. So if we want to get y alone, we have to get rid of that fraction. We have to get rid of 0.3 that's in the bottom of it. So right now, fraction means divide, so we multiply by 0.3. And what we do to one side, we also have to do to the other. Because really this 0.3 that we're multiplying by is like 0.3 over 1. Because just like any number, 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. I can do that with decimals as well. 0.3 is the same thing as 0.3 over 1. And when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So we get y times 0.3 divided by 0.3 times 1. So our 0.3s are going to cancel in the end. Y is alone. And now we just have to decide, well, on the left side we have 0.3 times 16. And that comes out to be 4.8. Y equals 4.8. Number 6. What is happening to our variable? Well, our variable is m. Right now the number's next to it, which means multiply. So to get m by itself, we divide. And what I do to one side of my equation, I must do to the other. Well, 1.6 divided by 1.6 is 1. So we have 1m, and a negative divided by positive is a negative. 9.44 divided by 1.6. Type it in your calculator. Should come out to be negative 5.9. So you can trust the calculator as long as you know you are being careful and showing your work. So make sure you're showing your work as you work through these. Okay, I want you to try a few. So go ahead and try 7, 8, 9, and 10. Pause the video, try them yourself, and then push play when you want to see the results. Okay, here's the results. So number 7, 7.84 equals 2.67 plus W. So W is being added, so we want to do the opposite. Subtract. So we want to subtract negative 2.67. Now what I do to one side, I must do the other. So now on the right side, 2.67 minus 2.67, 0. And 0 plus w is w. And on the left side, 7.84 minus 2.67 is 5.17. Okay, number 8. C is being divided, so we do the opposite. Multiply, and we multiply by negative 8.4 because that's what on bottom. That's what we want to get alone. What I do to one side, I got to do the other. So C equals negative 52.08. And again, to check our work, all we have to do is take that 52.8, plug it in for C, which really means we're taking 52.8 divided by negative 8.4. A negative divided by negative is a positive, and it should come out to be positive 6.2. So if you get stuck, you're kind of questioning it, it looks kind of weird, make sure you're checking your work. 9. P is being subtracted, so we must add. And what we add is 4.49. Because that's what's happening to P. So we're not adding the stuff on the other side of the equation, but the stuff on the same side as P, or your variable. So now P is alone, because those cancel out. Negative 8.01 plus 4.49 is negative 3.52. So P equals negative 3.52. 10, 0.26 is being multiplied by n. So we have to do the opposite and divide. 0.26 is being divided to both sides. So now n equals 1.95 divided by 0.6. 7.5. 11. What's happening to our variable r? That's right, it's being divided, so we do the opposite to get rid of that number that's with r, 25.2. What we do to one side, got to do the other, so we multiply by 25.2. Well, a negative times a positive is a negative. 25.2 times 0.75 is negative 18.9, which equals r. And last one for this side, negative 19.4 plus x equals negative 32.1. So x is being added. So in order to move the 19.4, we have to subtract. But we're subtracting the whole number, negative 19.4. If we have minus a negative, that really means the opposite of a negative. So we add. So those are those trickier ones. Think about, well, what is the opposite? Because in order, if I put minus here, negative 19.4 minus 19.4 doesn't cancel. And remember, our goal is to get that variable alone. So that should be a hint there to tell you, oh, I need to do the opposite. I need to add. So x equals negative 32.1 plus 19.4, which is negative 12.7. Okay, that is the front side. Please make sure you get these notes down. If you can't read something, listen to it one more time, and then go to the second video for set 2.